In every garden, there lies a quiet story, a story about renewal, patience, and the gentle art of seeing beauty where others do not. Here, among the flowers and fallen leaves, something ordinary can become extraordinary. A broken bottle, an old door, a simple coconut shell. Each one holds a second chance. Welcome to TERAFLORA Studio, a place where creativity blooms slowly, softly, and sincerely. Here, we believe that art is not only painted on canvas. It grows through hands, through soil, through light, through the courage to care for what the world has left behind. As we wander through these gardens, we will see how forgotten materials, bottles, shells, metal, and wood, can be transformed into delicate forms of life and color. This is not just about crafting or decorating. It is about connection. It is about slowing down, breathing deeply, and remembering that beauty often hides in silence, waiting to be noticed. Before we begin, we must say this clearly. This content was thoughtfully written and curated with the help of artificial intelligence, then refined with human care, emotion, and vision, so that every word, every image, and every sound can bring peace to your mind. If you find comfort here, if these stories remind you of calm mornings and quiet evenings, we invite you to stay with us. Let your garden and your heart grow together with ours. Subscribe to TERAFLORA Studio and step into a world where upcycling becomes poetry, and every bloom tells a story of hope, love, and timeless charm. In a quiet corner of the garden, sunlight dances through glass. Once forgotten bottles, once labeled, discarded, and dull, now gleam like jewels above a sea of marigolds and asters. Each one carries a second life, hand-painted with soft strokes of lavender, peach, and mint, transformed into a vessel of light and renewal. When twilight comes, the bottles awaken. A gentle shimmer spreads across the yard as warm glows of pink and gold ripple through the flower beds. The petals seem to blush under their light. The air hums softly, filled with the scent of damp soil and chrysanthemums. It feels as though the garden itself is breathing, exhaling color into the night. An old wooden pergola shelters these lanterns, a silent witness to their rebirth. They were once trash, forgotten glass left behind after the noise of the world faded. Now, they belong to the rhythm of the garden, swaying with each passing breeze. Light drips slowly from them, forming tiny rivers of color over leaves, stones, and petals. In this moment, the viewer sees not garbage, but grace. The bottles whisper a lesson of quiet transformation, that beauty can bloom even from what has been thrown away. It is not perfection that draws the eye, but purpose. Not luxury, but love. And as evening deepens, the last light of the sun melts into the lanterns. Their glow lingers, soft, deliberate, eternal. A gentle reminder that even what we discard can find new life, new meaning, and new light in the tender hands of creativity. Under the soft gaze of the moon, the bottle blossom lanterns glow like fireflies of memory, each one a small miracle of redemption, shining quietly among the flowers that never stop believing in tomorrow. In a quiet backyard nook, the world feels small, tender, and alive. Here, under the gentle shade of a wooden pergola, little pieces of the earth have found a new form. Humble coconut shells, polished and painted, now cradle life once more. Inside each half shell, a tiny world blooms. Succulents curl like sleeping stars, marigolds burst into laughter, and moss spreads softly like a secret whisper to the soil. They call them fairy pots, not because fairies truly live there, but because something magical always seems to happen around them. A beam of sunlight finds its way between the leaves and rests on the curved shell, making the colors shimmer like morning dew. A butterfly lingers. A bird pauses mid-flight. Even time seems to slow down to watch. Each coconut once fell hard from the tree, forgotten after the fruit was gone. Yet now, painted with care and reborn with purpose, it becomes a vessel of beauty. There is a certain poetry in that, the way nature reclaims what it once offered, the way the discarded becomes a cradle for life again. In the soft air of evening, fairy lights flicker beside them. The warm glow spills across the petals, wrapping the garden in golden calm. Every pot feels like a heartbeat, every leaf a breath. For those who wander by, it is hard not to smile. The coconut shell fairy pots do not shout for attention. They whisper serenity. They remind us that art is not always loud. Sometimes it hides in small, quiet corners of the world, growing slowly, joyfully, and endlessly green. And as night falls, the shells gleam softly under the moonlight, tiny lanterns of life, holding within them the eternal truth that beauty, once born from kindness, never fades. Every door carries a story, even the ones no longer attached to walls. In the heart of a quiet garden, a forgotten door finds a new life. Once a barrier between rooms, now it stands open to the world, embracing light, air, and the rhythm of the wind. Painted in soft layers of mint, rose, and cream, its faded texture tells the poetry of time, where weather and memory meet in gentle harmony. The pastel door garden wall is more than an ornament. It is an invitation. Flowers spill from its panels like laughter after a long silence. Marigolds blaze like tiny suns. Asters lean toward the light, and sedum stretches across the frame, soft as a sigh. The old doorknob catches a glint of sunlight, like an echo of the past still holding on to its beauty. Every crack in the wood becomes a line in a painting. Every nail hole turns into a resting place for ivy. This door no longer closes anyone out. It opens the heart of the garden wider. It whispers to passers-by, "See how even the forgotten can bloom again." As the day fades, shadows curl around its edges. The door glows faintly, kissed by the last golden light. A butterfly rests on the handle. A breeze stirs the hanging petals. The air smells of fresh paint and soil, mingling into the scent of quiet joy. This is where the soul of upcycling lives, not in the act of reusing, but in the rediscovery of meaning. A door once meant to separate now gathers life, warmth, and beauty together. And when night finally falls, the pastel hues turn silvery under the moon, blending softly into the garden's dream. In that stillness, the pastel door garden wall stands not as an object, but as a memory reborn. A living canvas that teaches us that every ending, painted with care, can open into something beautiful again. In the still hush of dawn, the fence awakens before the world does. A shimmer of color catches the light, soft reflections dancing on metal petals forged from yesterday's trash. What once guarded silence and rust now sings in color, alive with morning air and the hum of bees among asters. The metal trash bloom fence began as scraps. Broken tins, bottle caps, pieces of forgotten machinery. But in the hands of care and imagination, they became something else entirely. A living tapestry of reclaimed beauty. The artist behind them didn't see waste. They saw potential. The cold metal became warm with purpose. Each flower, hand-shaped and painted in pastel hues, tells its own quiet story. Some bend like daisies in the wind. Others curl like chrysanthemums just before bloom. Together, they form a wall that doesn't divide but connects. The garden to its soul, the maker to the earth. When sunlight hits them, the colors shift. Coral turns golden, blue melts into silver, and the garden breathes with moving light. Children passing by stop and stare, fingers tracing the shapes of petals that never wilt. At night, fairy lights along the fence catch on the metal, and suddenly the garden feels like a small festival of stars. It is not a fence anymore. It's a celebration, a dance between what was and what is possible. The message shines between every welded petal. Transformation is not about erasing the past. It's about giving it a new purpose. The metal once hidden in darkness now holds sunlight every morning, its rust replaced by radiant bloom. And as the day fades, the metal trash bloom fence glows quietly in the twilight. A living reminder that beauty is not born from perfection, but from persistence and love. Even in forgotten materials, the will to bloom still lives. Each step tells a story. Once scattered and forgotten, the bottle caps now rest beneath the sky, reborn as a living canvas beneath the souls of those who wander. In the gentle morning light, they gleam like confetti from a forgotten celebration, each one carrying a color, a memory, a quiet defiance against waste. The bottle-capped mosaic path winds softly through the garden like a whispered melody. It does not shout, it hums. Pastel shades of mint, lilac, and rose intertwine with bold bursts of blue and gold, creating a walkway that feels alive, half art, half earth. The marigolds along the edges seem to lean closer, admiring their reflection in every painted circle. Once, these caps sealed bottles of joy, soda shared between friends, moments lost in laughter. Now, they seal something deeper, a promise that beauty can emerge from what's discarded. The artist's hands, patient and careful, placed each piece not just with precision, but with hope. As the day unfolds, sunlight skips across the mosaic, shifting colors with every breeze. The path becomes a painter's dream, ever-changing yet eternal. At twilight, fairy lights trace its curves, and the garden feels like it's breathing, alive with light, with love, with life renewed. Walking along it feels almost sacred. Each step softens the noise of the world. You realize that the garden doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to remember how to feel. The bottle-capped mosaic path teaches that small things matter, that beauty is not measured by worth, but by wonder. And when rain falls, the path glistens like 1,000 tiny mirrors reflecting the sky. What was once trash is now a testament. Every cap holds a story, every color holds a dream, and every path leads to a place where creation meets compassion, where even the smallest things can bloom again beneath your feet. There is a moment in every quiet garden when life begins to sing. It starts softly, the rustle of wings, a chirp from above, and the tender sound of beaks meeting seeds. Beneath the branches, the coconut shell bird feeders sway gently in the breeze, catching the first rays of sunlight like tiny cradles of joy. Each half-shell, once fallen from a distant palm, has traveled far to find its second life here. Its rough edges have been sanded smooth, its surface painted in shades of coral and sage. Now, instead of holding water or fruit, it holds nourishment and the promise of company. In the still morning air, sparrows flutter in pairs, robins land shyly, and doves coo from the fence. The shells creak softly as they sway, scattering seeds like blessings over the soil below. Every visit feels like a conversation between nature and kindness, a small exchange of gratitude. The garden itself seems to smile. Marigolds glow brighter under the flutter of wings, and asters nod as if listening to a secret. The feeders become a rhythm, a heartbeat pulsing through the quiet green world. At twilight, fairy lights wind through the branches, their soft gold reflections shimmering on the curved shells. The birds return once more before night falls, singing their last gentle songs. And as they leave, the air remains warm with their memory, a melody of belonging that lingers in every petal, every leaf. The coconut shell bird feeders are not just objects. They are gestures of love, reminders that even small acts can weave the wild back into our lives. In their stillness, they teach that beauty does not always bloom. It sometimes flies, eats, sings, and trusts. Under moonlight, the shells glow softly, like lanterns of care suspended in the night, silent, patient, waiting for morning's first wings to return. In every garden, there is a place where purpose meets poetry. Here, an old door once meant to divide spaces now opens to life. Its wood, cracked and worn by time, stands steady again, painted in gentle hues of sage and cream, now reborn as the reclaimed door herb shelf. The scent greets you before the sight does. Basil, mint, and rosemary release their fragrance into the warm air, wrapping the garden in a melody of green. The small shelves, handmade, uneven yet perfect, hold terracotta pots filled with earth and hope. Each leaf catches sunlight differently, shimmering like living emeralds. Once discarded, The door now frames a story of renewal. Its hinges no longer creak. Instead, the sound of bees and soft rustling leaves fills the quiet. A small chalkboard sign leans against it, reading "Fresh herbs for today." Beneath it, a watering can rests like a faithful companion. Every detail speaks of care. The hands that built this did not chase perfection, they chased belonging. And in that pursuit, they found harmony between what was and what could be. At twilight, the door glows softly beneath the golden sky. The herbs seem to breathe with the rhythm of dusk, their shadows long and tender. Fairy lights coil gently around the frame, turning the humble structure into something almost sacred. The reclaimed door herb shelf doesn't just hold plants, it holds time. The past lingers in the grain of the wood, while the present blossoms from its surface. Together, they remind the gardener that renewal is not about starting over. It's about continuing with grace. And when night falls, the air remains fragrant with rosemary and memory. The door stands quietly in the dark, proud and patient, as if whispering, "Even what once closed you off can open you again, to light, to growth, to life." It begins with a sound soft, steady, and eternal, the whisper of water meeting glass. In a quiet garden corner, the glass bottle waterfall feature gleams like captured sunlight. Each bottle, once cast aside and forgotten, now becomes a vessel of rhythm and reflection. Water flows gently through their curved necks, pooling into a basin that mirrors the sky. The air feels alive here. Every droplet catches the morning light, scattering tiny rainbows across the petals of marigolds and asters nearby. The bottles hum softly as water slips through them, like wind chimes that speak in liquid tones. It is the sound of patience, of renewal, of nature's slow applause. Each bottle bears its own history, once holding wine or oil or perfume. Now, united by flow and gravity, they tell a new story together, one of transformation and grace. Their transparent bodies glow as the day warms, refracting gold and emerald hues that ripple over the garden walls. The artist who made it did not chase symmetry, but serenity. They aligned the bottles not by precision, but by intuition, letting the water find its path as life often does. The result is imperfect, and that imperfection makes it perfect. At dusk, fairy lights awaken around it. The glass turns amber, the water silver. The air hums with the song of frogs and distant crickets, and the fountain becomes a small universe of light in motion, a place where even silence has a sound. Standing beside it, one feels lighter, as if the flow of water carries away the noise of the world. In its gentle cascade lies a reminder: beauty does not always bloom. Sometimes, it flows. The glass bottle waterfall feature is not merely decoration, it is meditation in motion. It speaks of how discarded things can be reborn, how forgotten materials can whisper peace once again. And in the hush of evening, when moonlight glides across its surface, the bottles gleam softly, each one holding not just water, but the quiet miracle of beginning anew. They move as if remembering how to fly. In a soft garden breeze, the metal trash butterfly mobiles dance, silent, weightless, radiant. Their wings, once cut from broken tins and discarded metal sheets, now shimmer with new life. Painted in gentle hues of lavender, blush, and mint, they catch the sun like whispers of a forgotten dream. Each butterfly begins its story in the dark corners of neglect. Rusted lids, bent spoons, thin wires twisted into useless shapes. But in the hands of an artist, they find grace. The coldness of metal melts into poetry. The edges once sharp are now tender arcs of motion, moving freely against the blue sky. When morning comes, sunlight filters through the wings, scattering fragments of gold across the garden wall. The butterflies sway among the flowers, aster petals reflecting their color, marigolds glowing brighter in their company. Even the air feels changed, filled with the soft sound of movement and light. They do not speak, yet they tell stories of renewal, of freedom, of transformation. They remind every passerby that beauty does not fade when its purpose changes. The wind carries them gently, each turn a reminder that creation is not bound by what a thing once was. As evening falls, the mobiles shimmer beneath fairy lights. Their shadows dance on fences and flower beds, like memories made visible. Children laugh as they spin beneath them, chasing reflections that vanish into the twilight. The garden feels alive, as if breathing in color. And in that quiet moment, the butterflies seem almost real, born not from wings, but from will. They are proof that even metal can remember how to move softly, that even trash can learn to fly again. The metal trash butterfly mobiles do not fade with time. They age gracefully, like poetry in motion, forever turning, forever becoming. A living song of renewal carried on the wind, painted with patience and blessed by sunlight. As daylight fades, the garden inhales calm. From the shadows of dusk, small flames awaken, cradled in the gentle curves of coconut shells, their light soft and golden. The coconut shell candle corners glow like quiet hearts, turning every leaf, petal, and stone into a canvas of warmth. Each shell tells a story of renewal. Once fallen from high palms, split by gravity and time, they were hollow, empty, forgotten. But painted with care and given purpose, they now breathe light into the night. The rough surface of the shell catches the glow, transforming it into a dance of flickers that feel almost alive. Around them, marigolds and asters lean closer, their colors deepened by the fire's reflection. The air smells of wax, wood, and wet earth after sunset. You can almost hear the whisper of the flame, a steady rhythm that keeps time with the heart. In a world that moves too quickly, these candles ask you to slow down, to sit, to listen, to see how beauty grows in silence. A single flicker can change the atmosphere of an entire space. A handful of light can turn trash into treasure. As night deepens, the garden becomes a cathedral of glow. The coconut shells, painted in pastel hues of sage and cream, hold steady against the wind. Their light wavers but never disappears. It lingers on faces, on flowers, on memories of the day now resting. This is not about grandeur. It's about grace, about finding elegance in imperfection, stillness in simplicity. The coconut shell candle corners remind us that peace can be handmade, that serenity is not bought, but built, one light at a time. And when the last candle melts into silence, the shells remain, waiting for another dusk, another story, another spark to be reborn. When night falls softly over the garden, something magical begins to breathe. The bottle border fairy lights awaken like stars caught in glass, each one flickering with the warmth of a dream. Once discarded and empty, these bottles now cradle light, guiding footsteps through the hush of evening. The path curves gently beneath them, every glow reflecting on the petals of asters and the leaves of sedum. There's a rhythm in the way the lights pulse, steady and calm, like the slow heartbeat of the earth itself. The air carries a faint hum of electricity mixed with the scent of blooming marigolds. Each bottle tells a small story, once a container of joy, now a keeper of light. Painted softly in hues of mint, cream, and rose, they catch the twilight glow and turn it into poetry. Their glass walls, imperfect yet radiant, bend the light into ripples that dance across the garden soil. The transformation feels almost sacred. Trash turned treasure, waste turned wonder. As the darkness deepens, the lights draw you closer, not to brightness, but to belonging. There's peace here, between the warm earth and the quiet glow. The world outside fades into shadow, but the garden remains alive, lit by a constellation of gentle hands and humble art. In the distance, a window glows, and you realize how small gestures can hold great beauty. A few wires, a few bottles, a few moments of intention, and the night becomes luminous. The bottle border fairy lights don't just decorate, they speak. They whisper of evenings spent in laughter, of solitude without loneliness, of the power of light born from what was once thrown away. And when the wind brushes past, the lights tremble like fireflies caught in memory. Fragile, fleeting, but unforgettable. Here, every bottle shines not for attention, but for meaning. Every glow is a promise that even in darkness, there can be art. At the edge of the patio, two old doors stand side by side, as if guarding a secret. Their paint has faded, sage blending into cream, blush melting into time, but their beauty remains, reborn in purpose. Once meant to separate rooms, they now join the garden to the soul. This is the upcycled door patio divider, where memory meets bloom. The doors creak softly in the wind, not in protest, but in contentment. From their panels hang pots of ivy and marigolds, spilling life over the frames like laughter spilling through an open window. Between the slats, sunlight filters through, scattering patches of gold onto the patio floor. Each crack in the wood tells a story. Each scratch holds a past. Yet, together they create harmony, a portrait of imperfection turned into grace. The garden feels more alive around them, the way flowers gather near something kind. A small table rests nearby with a cup of tea, the scent of mint and basil filling the air. In the afternoon, the divider provides shade. At dusk, it holds the last light. As evening deepens, fairy lights drape across its edges, glowing like fireflies caught in conversation. The air becomes tender, slow, and full of warmth. This is not just decor, it's dialogue. Between time and tenderness. Between the hands that once built it and the heart that saved it. The upcycled door patio divider stands as proof that beauty does not vanish with age. It simply waits for new meaning. It transforms boundaries into belonging, silence into serenity. When the night settles, the soft light behind the doors turns the garden into a dream. A space both open and intimate, both old and new. And in that stillness, you realize, sometimes the most beautiful walls are the ones that don't confine, but embrace. As the final light of the day softens over the garden, we begin to see how everything, even what was once forgotten, finds its way back to meaning. A bottle turned lantern, a coconut shell turned candle, a door reborn as a wall of flowers. Each carries a whisper of transformation. Here, in the quiet rhythm of leaves and sunlight, we learn that beauty is not always loud. It often lives in the simplest corners of life, in the patience of hands, in the glow of small ideas that gently grow. Every piece we have seen today reminds us of something essential, that creation is not about perfection. It is about care and courage and kindness. To create is to give the world another reason to breathe beautifully. At TERAFLORA Studio, we believe that art can bloom anywhere, in a tiny yard, a recycled bottle, or even in the silence of your own afternoon. Every upcycled piece carries a heartbeat, a quiet reminder that the earth rewards those who create with love. If this journey brought you peace, if it made you pause and see beauty a little differently, we invite you to stay close to this space. Let every new video remind you that nature, art, and time are always working together, softly, slowly, sincerely. Subscribe to TERAFLORA Studio and let us continue to grow beauty from the forgotten, to turn stillness into inspiration, and to make the world bloom, one gentle story at a time.